Hi there, this is Beth. Today we're going to take our first journey through the Tarot. You hit a point where you've read all the books and you know the details academically, but you need to start working on the details within yourself. And one of the best ways I've found, for me at least, is to start just at the beginning with the Fool. And looking at what's in your card. You have a guy about ready to jump over a cliff, just merrily walking off, and you have eagle, and in the back there's a long winding path through kind of a barren country. And one of the best ways is to start dissecting your card. So let's take the background first. Our background is very barren. There's not a lot of greenery in there. No trees, no shrubberies, no plants. But there is a long winding road. And that's your path you're going to travel on. That's the path the Fool's going to take. And in the background, which is very hard to see in this card, let's see if we can, there you go. There's a rising sun, which symbolizes new beginnings, beginnings of something. So there's your background. I like to usually break it down into background, foreground, and then if there's a figure, I do the figure. So the background, barrenness, long winding road, sunrise, new beginnings, starting on your journey. There's a long road to follow, and you have yet to fill in the barrenness in things. There's your background. Then in the foreground, you have an eagle on a tree branch, cliffs, rocks, and the cliff is symbolizing that jumping into the abyss, taking that leap into the unknown, and which is most of us find very actually all of us, even if you're willing to do it, it's a terrifying thing to take that leap and just go for it. And that's what the Fool in many ways symbolizes, is taking the leap into the unknown, jumping into the abyss, finding out what you don't know about yourself and what you don't know about other people. And by doing that, cat time, I'm talking. By doing that, you are able to start a development of yourself and a deeper knowledge of the cards, because learning the Tarot in a way is like taking that leap into the abyss. The figure itself is clothed in this deck. This is the Mythic Tarot in animal skins, and he's crowned with grape leaves. And in this deck, the Fool is symbolized by Dionysus, whose cult was very ecstatic. Drink a lot, do drugs. And some of his followers were called the Maenads. I can never remember which one it is. And how they celebrated was by getting really messed up on drugs and alcohol, and then they tear men apart. It kind of tells you a little about how, who they have chosen to portray this. But Dionysus also has that aspect of being open and moving into new stuff, which is what the Fool symbolizes. You have the eagle in the corner. In this deck, since it is dealing with the Greek mythos, is symbolization of Zeus, the father, and also kind of the head guard, the head honcho in the Greek pantheon. What else is there? The barren land, signifying what you haven't learned yet, the road to follow, the cliff, leaping off into the unknown. And this card is really a card about new beginnings and new journeys. And if you do yoga, or even read anything about yoga, you will have heard a lot about a beginner's mind. And the Fool represents the beginner's mind of looking at things through fresh eyes and trying to leave behind your past. What's the word I'm looking for? Your past judgments, how you normally would view something. And you want to, it's kind of like leaving your baggage. As you jump off the cliff, you just set it down. leave it there and try and experience things with the beginner's mindset, with new eyes. And in the nutshell, that is the Fool. It's that journey into the unknown. In a negative sense, because not all cards are going to be positive, and negative doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. It's just something you need to work on and be aware of what's going on in your life. And negatively, it can mean you're rushing into things too quickly, that you refuse to look at other things, that you're not willing to start learning on that journey. And learning is a big part of the Fool. Yeah, he's open to new experiences. He wants to learn from them. He's not just leaping over the cliff to leap over a cliff. He's leaping over the cliff to find out what happens next. And when he hits the ground, he picks himself off and dusts himself off and continues down that long, winding road that's shown in the card. And by doing that, he starts to learn. He starts to experience new things and learn about himself and fill in those details. Whereas if you're not willing to learn from jumping off the cliff, and you just jump off the cliff because it's the cool thing to do or whatever, and you don't learn from that experience, that's the negative aspect, where you blindly rush in and you just keep blindly rushing in, and you never learn from that rushing in. You never stop and say, oh, maybe I need to do this instead. So it has two aspects. It has that new energy of just things going, yeah, and learning. It has the negative aspect of rushing in and ignoring what you're supposed to be learning. If you do the ignoring, it's not going to be a pleasant card. And you need to work through that aspect if that's what it's saying to you in a reading. And by starting to dissect your cards like this, you get a deeper meaning, and you can use stories to help convey meaning to your querents, people who are asking you questions. And it becomes a very powerful way to help you read a tarot spread for someone, using it that way, as opposed to just, oh, the Fool. It's not the Fool being just, new beginnings. It gives you a deeper level into the symbolism, which then you can ingrain within yourself. And just when you see it, especially if you're a person who reads very much by the cards, then it's just there. It's there in your head, it's there in your heart, it's there in your being. And that is really where you want to go with the tarot, is to internalize it. So when you are reading or you see a card within a spread, and you can look and see how it relates to everything. So dissect your cards, kids. It's a great way to learn things. And one of the first things I started doing after I stopped just reading books was to start looking at things and using the symbology within the deck that I'm using to really portray meaning and stories and bring more depth to a reading than if I just, okay, my book told me this. Because there are so many variables that go in, and that's almost a whole nother reading, is everyone reads them slightly different. Some people are extremely just, these are your cards, and they lay them down and they read them by that, and that's an awesome way. There is no right or wrong way. Whereas I draw upon both what I know of the cards, and I'm also very intuitive with them when I'm reading them. I'm tapped in. And that tapping in gives me another source of information, but not everyone has that strong of a tapped in, and not every reading is going to be super bam and powerful to tap in to things. So I think just start on that journey of looking at them away from the book. Don't get your book, write down the background, the foreground, what the figure is and what it's wearing and what it's doing, the colors used within a card, and how you see the meaning conveyed to you. And your meaning, even within the same deck, going over it and over it again and again, is going to be different than